that you cannot allow persons' feelings to veto the right to speech. That's an intellectual principle. And as a pragmatic principle, it's a disaster to use people's feelings as the test of whether a particular speech should be expressed, allowed to be expressed. Now, if amidst all of this horrible Supreme Court jurisprudence, you have a few good cases that you can use, I cannot see the point of abandoning or rejecting those few victories. We have to always remember one fundamental fact. Professor Chomsky was often praised for, quote, speaking truth to power. And Professor Chomsky always rejected that. He said, we don't need to speak truth to power. Power already knows the truth. We don't have to tell them. They don't give a damn because they like the system. We're speaking not to power. We're speaking to what the Occupy movement called the 99% who have no power and they have no wealth. We're speaking, more honestly, it's about 80%, and we're trying to reach them. And in my opinion, one way to reach not the powerful, but to reach your fellow citizen, comrade, whatever you want to call it, is to invoke, as I said, I'm not a patriot, but you know what? In the past few weeks, I sat down and I read through the decisions. I was curious. The Skokie decisions, the flag. I have to say, they were damn good. The reasoning was quite, no, it was not quite, it was very impressive. Now, obviously, you're going to have to accept things that maybe you don't like. For example, if you are consistent with that tradition, yes, Nazis have the right to march through Skokie. And there are going to be a lot of ugly things that you're going to have to swallow. But ultimately, there are two tests, and then Briahna goes. No, well, there are two tests. Test number one, if you are truly committed to the pursuit of truth, if you're truly committed to the pursuit of truth, and it is my opinion, and it has not always, but for a long time been, our strongest weapon is truth. That's why they wanted to crush those encampments. Not because they were raucous, not because they were uncivil, not because they were threatening. They wanted to crush those encampments because they were broadcasting a very ugly truth. So, if you're committed to truth, then I don't see how you can justify suppressing speech on the ground that it hurts feelings. And as a pragmatic matter, it's a complete disaster when you start going down that route, because the moment you use the standard of feelings, remember, the people in power get to decide whose feelings we're going to protect. And as Nadine Strassen, the former head of the ACLU, in a little book called Hate, she made the point, if you look into legislation all across Europe, all that anti-hate legislation, all across Europe, she says if you look at the results of that legislation, it was all weaponized by the governments to silence the very groups it was supposed to protect. And that's just what's happening now.